podcast. It's the Sutton podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United at the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this.
But the whistle goes down. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United, the National League, are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Sunday Service, Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. Eagle-eared, I guess, amongst you would have realised I've switched back to the old intro. The votes are really, really close on that. So if anyone still wants to chuck in their tuppence worth, let us know. But it's closer than Brexit was, although I suspect it's more to do with apathy than anything else. Today, I have got joining me John, who's been on the show probably just as many times as I have recently. John, the Colchester journalist, supporter journalist, whichever way you want to do it, depending on which hat he wants to wear. Hi, John, how are you?
All right, thank you, Mike. Yeah, yourself?
Yes, very well, thank you.
Good.
So as mentioned, you came to our lovely little grounds just a couple of weeks ago. And obviously it's going to sound awful, this, but you've been around a bit. So
very true, though.
How does it kind of compare to other grounds you've been to?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it actually, and despite the result for Colchester United on the night, it was a nice evening. It was freezing, yeah.
It was freezing.
It was absolutely bitter and quite deceptively, because it didn't seem that cold before the game, but the temperature dipped quite dramatically during the game, and we're quite used to it at Colchester because our stadium is arguably one of the coldest in the country, and so we're quite used to being cold and wearing lots of layers. But it was bitterly cold that night, wasn't it? But but it was an enjoyable experience. I enjoyed being at the ground for the first time and chalking off another ground on my list, and seeing a decent game of football as well. So despite the result for Colchester.
Yeah, no, it was a good game. I'm trying to sort of remember back, but I think it was Ali Smith did particularly well that night. My nephew was with me, and I think he did particularly, although he didn't take very kindly to the first goal being taken away from him. So I had a little tease of him yesterday because he scored again yesterday from another long range effort. And did that take a clip on the way in, Ali? Is that yours or is that an Oggy?
Well, there was a discrepancy over the Colchester goal as well, wasn't there? Because
yes,
we all in the press box thought it was Tom Eastman with the header, but we were trying to work out that maybe Freddie Sears had got a touch on the line, but then someone sort of said it might be an own goal. So there's one for the dubious goals panel.
Yeah, I think give it to the striker. I think the chairman would say give it to whoever gets the lowest goal bonus.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah.
So on the visit, you would have met a few of our long-standing people you met. Was Tony? Did you meet Tony Dolbear?
It was a pleasure to meet Tony. Yeah, he was very, very helpful on the evening and made sure that we all were served well with team sheets and so on. And very, very helpful. Yeah,
no, I've said to you before, they're a proper bunch. They're really good. I mean, there was, I can't remember who it was now, and I'm sorry, but at the start of the season, some another journalist somewhere for something said, I've just received the nicest email I've ever received in my work from Sutton United. And it was like, it's an email, what are you on about? And he goes, no, honestly, it was just so nice. And I was like, oh, I love our little club. I think they're great.
Well, it goes a long way with people, I think, and that sort of personal touch and that sort of attention to detail and friendliness and general welcome that you receive. And some people will be travelling a long way to get to Sutton and watch a game from up and down the country. Fortunately for us, it wasn't too far, but you sometimes you turn up and you're a bit stressed and you had to find somewhere to park, and the journey's been a nightmare. So the best thing you can have when that happens is to be welcomed into the ground like you are at Sutton, and so it does go a long way and it does make a difference to people.
Absolutely, always every day proud of them, what they do. From the team yesterday, I mean, I don't know, obviously you've got your own team to watch, but yesterday we were 2-0 down, and we got it back into it, and then we gave away an absolutely mad goal, and then we got a very soft penalty. Somehow managed to grab a draw out of it, and it was looking nowhere near a draw. Although once again, I made a few pennies from the bookies because when we were 2-0 down, I just thought, do you know what? We've done this before. I'm just gonna do it. Not much money, but there you go.
I noticed there was a good following of Sutton fans behind the goal as well. I know Stephen is quite well, covered them for a while, and there seemed to be a very good away following.
Yeah, I think it was 388 or something like that. So touching 400, which is again, we're a small little club. People forget that we are a small little club. So it was really, really good from the guys. But onto your own team. Obviously, I don't want to talk too much because it puts you in a difficult position being a journalist with a foot in each camp. But you have spotted it on Twitter and you've put it in your article today, actually, just a little bit before you came out. So that is, just remind me of the Twitter handle on that.
It's John Waldron 1. That's
John Waldron 1, and it's in the Colchester
Daily Gazette.
The Gazette, excellent. Yeah. So, to anyone who's seen it, you'll know why we don't want to talk too much about it because I'll get flagged up for explicit. There's a nice little video of the director and some fans having a bit of an altercation. Obviously, the clip that's been uploaded is about 3-4 seconds long, but there is a bit more into it. So if you're interested, if you want to read more on it, do dip into John's Twitter account or the Colchester Gazette thing and read a bit more. But obviously, that, and we had Oldham the other day. We know Leyton Orient have had problems, and this is why I keep waxing lyrical about our guys just being. Their interest is the team. Their interest is absolutely the team. We had many years ago a guy rock up to Sutton to want to buy and invest in Sutton, and basically he was told he's going to have a seat on the board, more or less. I know the story has changed a little bit in my mind over the years, but more or less he was told, "Thank you for the money, but actually you'll be a part of a board," and he didn't want that at all. And he actually went off and invested in Carshalton, and at the time, Carshalton were quite close to actually finishing. I think they were a penalty kick away from getting into the league above us for the first time in their history. So it was like, oh God, they're going to now get loads of money, and he's absolutely. I mean, they're coming back up now, which is good, but they went way down because this guy just was playing Football Manager with his team. So it just shows to anyone who ever doubts how boring board that they're doing it right. So. If any of you listen, AB, I know you listen every now and then, so thank you very much. But how was your game? I know you're in a bit of a slump at the moment.
Yeah, that's right, Mike. I mean, it's not been good, and yesterday's game was a very important one for Colchester in the context of where they are in the table and where their opponents, Barrow, were going into the game. I think there was 1 point between the two teams. Colchester sort of just above the relegation zone, 3 points clear of that. Barrow 4 points clear. So it was a huge game really for Colchester, and it was their first home league game since November. So they've had a lot of tough away games recently, which they haven't fared well in. And the belief was that they would go into this game thinking, well, this is a good chance for us to get back on track. Unfortunately, it didn't happen for them. It was I think Mark Cooper, the Barrow manager, described it as quite a sort of drab affair. There wasn't much going on in the first half. The weather wasn't great. There wasn't much atmosphere. But the second half, Barrow came out very strongly and scored quite early on in the second half. And then Colchester just lacked ideas, lacked creativity, lacked any kind of belief really in terms of getting back into the game. And the only surprise really was that it took Barrow as long as it did, sort of into stoppage time, to score their second goal and seal the win. So very disappointing afternoon for everyone at Colchester. And, I think everyone was expecting sort of a better performance than that. Going into the game, and they just completely failed really to live up to any expectations that there still remain. So 3 points above the relegation zone, albeit with a couple of games in hand on sort of other teams around them, but worrying times I think for Colchester United given the performance as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk. I'm slightly biased on this, but there's a lot of talk recently about the National League being so strong and calls for free up, free down. again. Which I'm biased because it took Sutton all these years to dig ourselves out of it, and suddenly you're going to open it up to everyone else. And I think as one of our supporters go, yeah, as soon as they do this, you just know we're going to have that third relegation spot.
Yeah.
But do you think there? I don't know how much National League you get to see, but do you think that because of that bottleneck, you are finding that some teams, their only expectation or only plan for the season is to avoid the bottom two? And that's why there seems to be a bit of a gulf in quality. 'Cause we would never have thought Sutton coming up that we would be at that end of the table, and without obviously full praise to all the players, but it's not as if there's a massive change from last season. It's the same team that won the National League, basically.
I mean, you're right. I don't know that much about the National League because obviously my focus is on League Two and it has been for a while. But what I do know is that from what I've seen of the teams that have come up, including Sutton, that they've done particularly well. Most of them sort of coming up, and there doesn't. I know most people say this, but there doesn't seem to be much of a difference between League Two and National League these days. And it was Harrogate last season who impressed me, a bit like Sutton are now, that they came up and just hit the ground running. Made a bit different because it was behind closed doors and so on, but they really impressed me. And other teams have done the same, and I don't think there is that much of a gap now between the two divisions. And when you look at Southend United, who are very close to us geographically in Colchester, and they've really struggled to sort of get results this season. It just shows you perhaps that there's no guarantee that when you go down from League Two that you're going to come straight back up or even challenge near the top. If even if you are one of the bigger teams in that division.
Yeah, I mean it took quite a few teams. They kind of went, oh yeah, we're going to smash this. I mean, Notts County was a big example when they came down. Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and it's like, oh, I don't actually think you are. Strangely, the only one that didn't seem to do that I remember was Leyton Orient. They kind of came down, they kind of licked their wounds, were like, we're here for a reason, and they sorted themselves out and they came up quite quickly. You've got teams like Wrexham been down there for ages. You've got Grimsby down there now, Notts County down there. So you've got these big teams. Yeah, big teams. And then you've had others like York literally just drop through. So I don't remember much about York because they just went straight through and didn't see him again.
And that's the fear with Colchester United. I mean, without wanting to be looking at the downside, I mean, they had a relegation struggle last season. So the theory is that if they do go down, then it's going to be a real problem for them to sort of come back up. And it's not like when they went down sort of in the late 80s into the conference when it was 1 up, 1 down, albeit they were up in 2 seasons because the golf in quality was different there between the Football League and the non-league. Now it's not like that. It's very similar, and in fact there's some very good teams in the National League that can more than hold their own. And if they got promoted sort of tomorrow, they'd be able to do well. So it's not easy, and they really cannot get relegated. I mean, it would be disastrous really for the football club.
Yeah, I mean, there seems to be a group of teams vying to be the not as bad as the others, just basically the least worst at the moment, which is great for us, obviously, because we can stop panicking about our 50 points. So whilst I've depressed you and made you feel like that, let's talk about the game. How do you see it going on Tuesday?
Well, it's difficult to be optimistic going into this game as a Colchester follower because not only did they underperform yesterday and have done for a number of games now, I think it's 5 defeats in a row.
Yeah, I read somewhere 5. It's the worst run since you lost 9 in a row. Some seasons back
in League One, yeah, and it's just that the lack of goals is really, really costing them now. They've scored the fewest amount of goals in the whole division. I think it's 17, but I think it's only sort of 1 in the last 5. They're really struggling in front of goal. I think it was 1 shot on target yesterday. So, there were signs of hope at Forest Green on Tuesday night because against a very good team, they did actually create quite a few chances and force their goalkeeper to make a number of good saves. But, yesterday it was back to kind of what we've been seeing before that, where the creativity is not there either and the goals aren't coming because the shots on target aren't there. And having seen Sutton twice this season, we know and Colchester United know that they will be up against a very, very good team this season on their own ground. So, they really do need to find something from somewhere to lift their performance in all areas in order to get anything out of the game on Tuesday. And that's just the realistic approach.
Yeah, I mean, we've been lucky. I mean, over the years, we've never actually had that striker that scores loads and loads of goals. We've bought a few that we've expected to score loads and loads of goals, but it's just never really panned out just because of the way we work. But actually, we've got quite a few players who've scored 6-7 goals. So the goals are coming from all over the pitch. We've mentioned Danny Smith, who scored again yesterday. I tried to take it off of him, but but it's a good performance. I mean, I'm sorry to say this. I'm hoping for more of a performance that we had against Mansfield, where we took the lead quite early, and then it was a very, very dull, boring match. We scored a second one, and that was it. We didn't have any dramas or anything. Not sure a lot of people can cope with the game like yesterday and the Port Vale game. We'd like some boring, easy, not easy, but box standard wins. But you'll be there again yourself?
I will. I'm looking forward to it. Yes, yeah. It's almost like a home ground these days.
Yes, absolutely. Well, might wander around to the press box, give you a little wave. Yes. You see my bright yellow jacket. But if not, if you train your little camera phone, you'll see some bald bloke on the mound, kind of opposite where you are, just to the left, and you'll see me there glaring at everyone because I'm very sociable these days.
I'll give you a salute.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will to you too. So anyone listening now, you're going to get a bit of weird time travel because I'm actually going to shoot off to the ladies' match, and I'll then have Dan on later on for the second part of the show, and I'll be able to tell you the result. But so to you, it'll be instant. But to me, it's going to be a couple of hours because Rosie is now insisting we go to the ladies' games, which is great. So take care, and I'll see you again soon, John. Thanks for everything. Thanks for all your time. You've been really, really helpful. Guys, you can't believe the amount of emails I send going, oh, actually, can I just change the time? Oh, actually, can I change the time again? But instead of telling me to get lost and please delete my email, John's always been very, very kind with his time. So thank you very much, John.
Pleasure.
And I'm sure we'll speak to you again soon next season until you change your email.
I look forward to it. Hopefully, well, who knows where both clubs will be next
Hopefully,
season.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, I didn't even think of the both part. Oh my God, no. There was a great little thing the other day, which I managed to get the audio, and it was Football League World. A couple of people discussing the distinct possibility of something getting back-to-back promotions. And I was still laughing, but we're halfway through the season now. It's not a joke anymore.
No, they're in that position for a reason in the table, yeah. So who knows?
Yeah, these players, they're very naughty. Poor Bruce. Very upset. Take care. Thanks a lot, John.
Thanks,
See you soon. Thank you. Bye.